All right. Hi, everyone. This is Judith Hope, and we have made it to the final episode of my limited series podcast from Los Angeles to Seattle. Now, I don't ever know if I mentioned that this was going to be a limited series podcast. I know I mentioned that it was my first podcast ever. So for me, this has just been a lot about practicing and learning how to storytell and how to relate my spiritual experiences to human life, to my human life specifically. But yeah, this is always meant to be a limited series. In my mind, I always kind of imagined 6 episodes, and here we are on the 6th episode, the final episode, and I have officially made it to Seattle. So when I left you guys off in episode 5, I was still in Denver, and that was right before a pretty big snowstorm, at least from someone from Texas, thought that this snowstorm was pretty big. Um, Kind of blew in. So I had quite the journey from Denver to now Seattle, but I'm here. I made it. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm already learning all kind of lessons for my next podcast. I am going to make like another YouTube podcast that's going to be ongoing. And then eventually I'm going to work my way up to having a podcast on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, more of an official type of platform like that. But I just want to thank everyone so much who listened to this series. It means so much to me. And it is just the beginning. So with that, we'll get into it. I'm not only going to be talking about my travels, my journey, but I'm also going to be talking about the Wiccan movie and how there are different codes by the Illuminati in the Wiccan movie that are designed to bring our vibration down, and what exactly they're like, what are they even doing with this movie? Like, why did they make it? Why are they kind of like revealing their MO in this movie? Right. So yeah, but before we get into that, I just want to say, please send a reminder to say hit like and subscribe. Okay, so like I mentioned, when I left you guys off in episode 5, I was still in Denver, and I think I was recording that episode as this kind of snowstorm was coming in. It was literally starting to snow as I was recording that episode. So up to that, my trip had been pretty smooth so far. I'd been able to drive to all the locations. The weather hadn't really gotten in the way of me like arriving to my locations on time, and I'd even been able to like get out and like see things and do things. But this is a part of the trip where that started to change. And I was trying so hard to get to Seattle before the bad weather started, because I knew if I waited until January, it was going to be hell, like trying to drive like from Texas like up to Seattle, right? But I feel like even though I like had the best intention with that, like there was already some bad weather starting. Starting with this snowstorm in Denver, and I did live in Chicago for 7 years, and so when I was in Chicago, like I was very used to like the snow and living in the snow and like driving in the snow some, but I think a lot of the time because I was in Chicago, like I took the train or the bus a lot of places, and like they just have that city designed where like the train and the bus are pretty much just like going like rain or shine, no matter what the weather. And it snows there all the time. So like the roads are like prepared so that you can drive on them. Like the trains are set up so that they can still operate, and even the buses can operate in these snowstorms. So I didn't actually have to drive like that much in Chicago, but it just was like it was like hell. Like in Denver, like I had so much snow in my car. I had to borrow a snow scraper from my Airbnb host because I didn't even have one, to get the snow off. And then it's like the second day I was there, I couldn't really like explore, like go places, because it was like half the city was like shut down because there was so much snow, and people were still on the road driving, but like it was only like the major roads. Like some of the smaller roads like had too much snow, you couldn't drive on them, so it was like a little limited in what I could do. And it was like it was pretty disappointing because I wanted to explore Denver. I wanted to see more because it is such a cool city, but I just was limited in what I could do because I'm basically driving around by myself in the snow. And the morning that I left, like this is what I realized. Okay, this is what I realized is that like the weather that Apple has, and even like the Weather Channel, like it's a little bit off, and it definitely was underestimating the amount of precipitation because it was supposed to stop at like 2 in the morning before I left. But it was still snowing when I woke up. So my car, like, even though the day before I had completely scraped all of the snow off, like, it was recovered in snow. and like my car doors on like the driver's side, like both the front, the driver's seat door that I needed to get in, and the seat behind it, the back seat door, were both frozen shut. And I mean, it has been years since I've dealt with a frozen shut car because I was living in Los Angeles, and then before that I was living in Austin, Texas, and like last winter I was pretty much just at home in Texas at my parents' house. And so I was just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. And so I had to like get hot water, pour it on the car door, and then it's like I'm trying to get the car door open. I'm trying not to like break the handle to my car. It's just miserable because I'm having to walk back and forth outside in the snow. I don't have anyone to help me. I'm doing it all on my own. And then I have to load like 5 or 6 different like loads of stuff that because I bring a lot of stuff with me when I travel into the car. It's like covered in snow. I'm trying not to slip. I don't have real snow boots because I think I donated my snow boots when I moved from Chicago. And so this takes me like an hour and a half, and I'm worried that I'm gonna like track snow all over the Airbnb because the hosts are so nice and I don't want to leave it a mess. I'm trying to like get all my snow off my boots every time I go, like in and out of the Airbnb. So it's like this long process, and I eventually I make it out. And so I'm driving on the highway north in Denver because I'm going up. I'm going next to Wyoming. And like I'm just driving, and like snow is like flying from the top of four-wheelers like towards me, like ice is flying. It's super annoying. And then I get a like on the side of my car, I get a like a warning light that like my back door behind my driver's seat door is open, and I'm on the highway, and I'm like going through downtown Denver, and I'm like it's not like downtown, it's hard to like just pull off and find a parking lot and get out and check the door, right? And so I was looking at it, and I was like, because in my rear view mirror I could just see, or my side view mirror I could just see there's like a sheet of ice on top of it, and I was like, that's the door that's frozen shut. But I had tried to open it, right? And so I think technically it was open, but like you couldn't actually open it because it was frozen shut. So I literally drive for 20 minutes because I was going to a Dutch Brothers to get coffee like north of downtown. I drive that far, and I get off at the exit for the Dutch Brothers, I get gas, and when I get gas, I literally just like push the car door like back in because it was frozen, and I was like, I can't even open it to really shut it. So I have to just like push it like back in, and I'm just like at this point I'm just like my stress level is just like rising. But I'm like, okay, like get gas, go get my coffee. So I drive through the thing at Dutch Brothers to get my coffee, and while I'm in line for that, I'm putting in the address of my next Airbnb, which was in Rock Springs, Wyoming. And I've never been to Wyoming before, so I'm super excited to go. And after all this, I get this alert that there is a weather advisory for a winter storm in Rock Springs, Wyoming. And I'm just like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. And it's basically like, it's pretty short drive. I think it was like 5 hours or less from Denver to Rock Springs. And it's basically just like on this one interstate, but there was a warning on the interstate that parts of it were closed. And I was trying to look at like, I think it was like W dot, the Wyoming website that shows like the interstate and other street closures on it. And there were like different parts of it that were closed. Now, what I realized later is I think they were closed for high speeds. And I think it was only limited to like higher level like trucks. Because I don't always understand all that stuff they talk about. It's like RV over this like measurement, or truck over this measurement. Like I'm not a trucker, like I don't know all that kind of stuff, but I think it was bigger cars. But I didn't understand that at the time, but I was like, I really want to try to get to Rock Springs tonight, but the major highway, it looks like it's closed. So I went like this alternative route, and I was like I was like, let me just see how close I can get to Rock Springs, and like if I need to stop and stay somewhere at a hotel, like I can do that, right? But let me just like get out of Denver and just keep going, right? And like that's kind of the approach that I took. And I actually ended up kind of taking that approach for the rest of the trip. But this was really where I decided to first start taking that approach. And so I ended up going to, I believe it was called Casper, because that's kind of like a funny, cute name, right? Like Casper, Wyoming, which was more north, and it was on another interstate. And like, it was crazy because the weather was beautiful and like perfect. Like, you couldn't even see snow in parts of it. Like, it was cold, yes, but it was like these views on this highway in Wyoming are stunning. Like, Wyoming is a beautiful state. Like, I know we've all seen like pictures of it and heard about it, but I've never been to Wyoming before, and it truly like lived up to its reputation. And so I'm just driving through Wyoming and I'm like, damn, like how is the weather like on Rock Springs so bad that the interstate is closed? But here I'm like 2 hours away, 3 hours away, and it's just like it's beautiful, right? And so I ended up going up to Casper, and when I got up there, I stopped at a gas station, and at the, I took my break, and then I was like, okay, like what is my next course? Like, do I need to get a hotel here? And actually I don't think I made it to Casper now that I'm remembering. I think it was like 45 minutes or an hour away from Casper. I was like, can I go straight to Rock Springs? And at that time, the roads were cleared. Like the winter weather advisory was down going to Rock Springs from that location that was close to Casper. And so I was like, let's do it. Let's get to Rock Springs tonight. And so I ended up not on major roads. Like I ended up on like these roads that they're not interstates, but they're like more like state highways, and they're way more like less people are on them, right? They're less busy. And I was on this for like a couple hours, at least 2 hours on these different roads. And at some point, I like lost signal on these roads because like there's no signal there. But this whole time, even leaving Denver, like some of these areas, like it would switch off between like it's not snowy, but then some of these areas were covered in snow, especially leaving Denver, and like it is drop dead gorgeous. And like that is something I've never up to this point driven through, just like mountains and fields covered in snow, just looking like winter wonderland, like absolutely like beautiful like that, right? Like I had never driven through like Colorado or Wyoming during the winter time, and it's like it's funny because it's like you try to avoid that, right? Logically you try to avoid that. And I think for me, these locations I'm going to, the timing is based off my intuition, my soul contracts. So it's not always logical. Like being in Denver in December is not logical. I should have been in Denver in the summer, but instead I was in Los Angeles where my soul contract was, or it was hot as hell and you couldn't go out. You didn't want to go outside every day. It got so hot for like a month and a half there, right? Which is better than Texas, but still. So it's frustrating because it's like I'm being in these situations which are like not ideal because I'm following my intuition and doing what my intuition tells me to do, right? And it's putting me in these situations where I'm having to like learn lessons and go for difficult things, but also have these beautiful experiences. Like when I was driving on these state roads in Wyoming, I mean, absolutely beautiful, so beautiful. But then I got to parts where it's like there was snow blowing over on the road. You couldn't see the road at some parts, and that is like, man, it's scary driving by yourself through that, right? And so my nerves were shot. Like my nerves were shot, and I knew I had my guides with me. I knew I had divine protection, and I knew that they would not let something happen to me, right? But I still was scared and freaked out and nervous and anxious and like gripping the steering wheel as I'm driving. And so I'm on these roads for like 2 hours, and then I finally make it back to the interstate that I can get on and I can go to Rock Springs. And by that point, no snow, the weather's much better. It's freezing cold. Freezing cold. But I stop, I get gas, and I get on the highway and I get to Rock Springs like another hour and a half, and I way added all this time onto my journey because I went kind of out of the way. So I make it to Rock Springs at night, and I'm just like, my nervous system is just completely shot. Like, I'm like so much anxiety from like having to leave Denver in the snowstorm and do all of that, and having to change my route, and then having to drive like on these remote roads with snow and no signal, and I'm just completely exhausted, right? But my Airbnb in Rock Springs is very nice. I have a nice night there. And then I get up in the morning, and I was supposed to head to Boise, Idaho that day. And I pack up, I go on the road, and I'm like, okay, I got to stop at McDonald's, get breakfast, get coffee. And so I'm there at McDonald's, like finish my breakfast, drink my coffee, and I'm looking, and I'm looking at the weather on Google, the route on Google, multiple weather apps, and again, it's like there's snowstorms, and like I had to go through Ogden, Utah to get to Boise. And then it's right by Salt Lake City. So Salt Lake City weather is terrible. There's snowstorms. Um, and then when you go up to Boise, there's rain leaving Portland and like Seattle and all that. There's rain. So I'm like, oh my God, like if I drive, like I'm gonna be in bad weather for snow and then rain all day. And I just was like, my nerves were shot from the day before. So I was like, let me just see if I can get somewhere and get out of Rock Springs. Cause that just was like to me, I was like, I wanna make some progress each day, right? And so I see that there's a town called Evanston, Wyoming, that's about an hour and a half away. No winter warning. So I get on the road, beautiful scenery, no bad weather for like an hour and a half. I get to Evanston, Wyoming, and I check the weather again, and it's still bad. Like, still gonna have to drive through like snow and rain for the rest of the day if I try to get to Boise that day. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I just need to find a place to stay. And I was looking, I was like, should I get an Airbnb? Should I get a hotel? And anytime I decided, like, hey, I'm gonna get to the next location, I'm gonna find this next town that I'm gonna go to, my kind of prerequisite for going to a town um, was if they have a Hampton Inn or not, right? Because back in my consulting days, I was always part of this team at my first job out of college that preferred Hilton over Marriott. So I always had a lot of like H honors points, and I got used to staying at Hilton hotels. And Hampton Inn is the lowest level of the Hilton chain, right? But it's like, it's very standardized. So you kind of know what you're going to get, right? You know the quality of room you're going to get, the quality of breakfast, the quality of service, and it's decently priced. It's not as cheap as some of like going to like Super 8 or, like Roadway Inn, but those hotels to me they're just gross. Like, and I just don't always feel safe in those hotels. So I'm like, hey, like Hampton Inn is a standard place I know I can go. And I just kind of felt into it. I had pulled over, I think it was like a gas station with a Subway, some fast food place in it. I didn't eat, but I there were booths there, and I sat in the booths, and I was like, it just feels really nice and warm and relaxing to go to a Hampton Inn and not try to find another Airbnb, because they did have some available in Evanston, Wyoming. But I just felt kind of intuitively like just go to the Hampton Inn. And I'm so glad I did, because it was so nice. It was so warm. It was fairly cheap. I mean, I think it was like 110, which is cheaper than a lot of Airbnb rates for, the night. And so I went, and like the guy that was working there was so friendly, and I was talking to him. He let me check in a little early. Like, it just felt very relieving, and it felt very good to be in the Hampton Inn as opposed to like trying to find another Airbnb, not being around other people, not having breakfast hot and served for you. And so I just kind of followed my intuition on that one. I ended up staying the night in Evanston, Wyoming, which put me like a day behind on all my Airbnb reservations. So they were pretty much screwed up at that point. And I tried to change them, but I ended up losing like quite a bit of money, probably like $300 or $400 on Airbnb reservations, which I should have never I should have never plotted out Airbnb reservations like that for a December trip. I should have just like, because like you can make an Airbnb, the host can make an Airbnb reservation like available for that night. Like I should have just got like figured out like, hey, like what place am I gonna get a hotel, or am I gonna get an Airbnb, and just waited to book till I was there. But I also and I was trying to think, I was like, why did I do that? And I think it's because I had a long-term Airbnb in Seattle, and I wanted to try to like count back from that so I could get there on time. Which I ended up having to change the date I arrived in that one anyway. So it all kind of got screwed up from that point. And I think I was just like, hey, like, I'm going to lose money on this, but my priority is like to stay safe and to keep myself safe, and drive with the good weather as much as possible. So I ended up the next day after that, I did make it to Boise. Beautiful drive again, like Utah, and Idaho, absolutely gorgeous, just like Wyoming. Boise was a very like cutesy city. I don't know why, but for some reason, like Boise resonates more like as the Midwest. For me, like I don't, it's weird. It doesn't seem like it's like the Pacific Northwest, which it is more close to the Pacific Northwest. I'm assuming that's the region it would identify like as being a part of. But I was like, it just seems so like Midwest to me, like it should be Wisconsin or something. I don't know. That's kind of the vibe it had. I did get to explore a little bit in Boise, just super cute. Like I went to cafes, I went to ice cream shops, restaurants, like adorable. Definitely has a small town feel, for compared to how big of a city it is. But that was one like nice place that I got to explore. And I remember that I woke up on the morning, that I was in Boise, and I had to decide, like, my plan was to go to Portland, and spend a couple days in Portland, or I could just go straight to Seattle because at that point, like, I'm already so stressed out about driving in the bad weather, and like part of me's like, I just want to get there. Like, I can go, and I was like, if I'm living in Seattle, like, I could literally go stay in Portland whenever I want. Like, it's a 3 hour drive interstate. Like, that's not going to be something that's going to be hard for me to go to Portland and check out, right? And I was looking at the weather and it's like, it's going to be raining the entire time I was in Portland, and I understand this part of the country it rains a ton. And I was like, am I even going to be able to go out and walk and do things? Or am I going to be stuck inside the whole time? And then I'm looking on Google and there's reported like flooded roads on the way into Portland. And I just was like, I was really feeling into it. I was like, do I really need to go to Portland? And the answer was no. I just got this feeling like you just need to get to Seattle. Like, just get to Seattle. It was an overwhelming feeling that I got. But I checked the weather on Google going into Seattle. There were also flooded roads on the way to Seattle. And you guys know what happened in December of 2025 is that multiple areas around Seattle were like actually flooded. And so I could see they were like flood watch. They're saying roads are flooded. And I was like, oh my God, like if I don't get to Seattle, like I'm not getting to Seattle for 3 or 4 days and I'm having to hang out, in some small town in like Washington State or Oregon or wherever. And I just was like, I just want to get there. Like, I just want to get to Seattle. So I took the same approach I had taken on the way, to Rock Springs, and I kind of just like plotted out each town I could get to. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours away, and be like, okay, like I think the first place I went to was Pendleton, Oregon. I got to Pendleton and I was like, okay, can I make it to another town? And there was this town called Yakima, Washington, that's like a couple hours outside of Seattle. And I was like, okay, like the weather's good to get to Yakima, like I can get there. And then once I get to Yakima, it's like I'll decide, like, do I find a Hampton Inn there or do I just like try to get to Seattle? And I was really kind of like teetering back and forth, as I arrived in Yakima, but I just had this like overwhelming feeling. It's like I just need to get to Seattle. And I think it was the like day before this, I kept getting like this like low battery warning for my remote control for my car, which it's like I don't even know if my car, like, I think you can, I know it has a manual key and I'm assuming you can start it if the remote control is working, but like I don't know, is not working, but like I don't know for sure. And so I'm kind of having this other issue, but I'm not really thinking about it because I'm like, okay, like it just went to like a warning, so it's probably has time. Like normally get several warnings before something completely dies. And I was like, I know there's going to be like a dealership up in Seattle because I had checked if there was a Mini Cooper dealership up there and I knew that there was. And so I was like, oh, I should probably stay the night in this Yakima town, which was like not a super small town, probably like 100,000 people or so if I had to guess. So there's stuff there, right? It's not like terribly small, but definitely not a city. So when I'm going somewhere on Google, I always just put in like the name of the town. So it was like Yakima, Washington. So it kind of takes you to like the city center or wherever that city has decided its like town center is with Google. I don't know how that process works, right? But I was getting off on the exit and it was literally like as I was getting off the exit, there was a sign for Walmart gas. And I just got this feeling it was like get gas and get to Seattle, right? And I just was like, I have to get out of here. I was like, at that point, I was like, I cannot stay in another small town at the Hampton Inn and be trying to like work and make content and do all that stuff at the Hampton Inn. And then just like, part of it's just like waiting, like sitting there at night and waiting and stuff. I was like, I'd rather just get to Seattle, start to learn the city, even if it's raining, still go out and do things here and there, like learn the city a little bit, like I just want to get there. And so I checked the weather and it was raining on the way to Seattle. And if you look at the map of Seattle, and I've been here for like a week now, but I'm still not super familiar with the city, but like there's literally these like lakes or like bodies of water like everywhere you enter the city. So I'm just like, oh my God, like I really want to get there. Like I don't want for these roads to flood and then I'm stuck in small town USA, right? And having to pay instead of my Airbnb I've already paid for, like having to pay nightly rate at like whatever hotel. And so I was like, I know there's rain, but I have like an hour before the rain hits, and then it's only like 2 hours to Seattle. I think maybe 2.5 hours. So he's like, let me just see like if I can get there, right? And so I go and I leave Yakima, and like on the way from Yakima to Seattle, like the first like 60 miles, beautiful weather, like gorgeous sights, like these beautiful like just mountains and like scenery. And like I guess because I'm from Texas and I'm from the east part of Texas and I've lived in like Austin and Dallas, so like central east Texas, like we don't have those beautiful mountains there. Like those mountains do exist in like the west parts of Texas. And I've been there like and I love that scenery and it's beautiful. But like I didn't grow up seeing it every day. So I'm just like when I see the scenery in the west part of the country, I'm just like it's absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. Like, I'm just always like just in shock looking around with my eyes wide open, right? So I'm driving through this. It's beautiful, but then the sun goes down. And as the sun goes down, the rain starts. And for about 50, 55 minutes, like, it was like bad. And like these roads, there was standing water on the roads. I was nervous and I'm driving like the speed limit is like 70. I'm driving like 50 or 55 because I just get nervous, but like everyone else is driving super fast. And like these semis are just like coming up on either side, like spraying water at me. And like I'm really just having to like stay clear. I'm like, okay, like according to the weather app, I should be out of this in like 20 minutes, 19 minutes, 18 minutes. I know my guides are with me and they're helping me, but it's just so stressful, right? Because I've been driving for like days at this point and I'm by myself. I don't have anyone else to drive. I don't have anyone else to make decisions of like to carry on or to stay in this town or to go or when I should go or should I cancel this? Is it, better to lose this money or do this? Like I'm just in decision paralysis. I'm exhausted. I just want to get there, right? And it's like I've never driven into Seattle before. Like I've flown there and I drove around Seattle before, but I've never driven in and I don't know these roads. They feel very narrow, like there's trees on the side of them. So it's not like I'm familiar because I feel like if you're more familiar, you can drive fast, you know what you're doing, but it's like I don't really know where I am and what's going to happen. And so it's extremely stressful, but I just knew I was like, just get through it. And I finally get to this like little town that's kind of the first town outside of Seattle because I feel like for an hour there when I was in the rain, like I just don't feel like there were any towns there. Like there might have been gas stations, but I don't know if people lived there if there was anything there. So I finally get to this cute little town. I get out, I go to the gas station, and when I come out of the gas station, like the rain has stopped like quite a bit. And I was like, okay, like I need to find a place to stay. So of course I'm gonna look for a Hampton Inn. And I was like, okay, like I want to get into the city. Like I don't want to get like on the outskirts of the city at some Hampton Inn and there's these like roads that might get flooded. Like I want to get like through downtown, like into the city. So I'm like, I'm there, right? And so I just Google like hotels. I find a Hampton Inn. Like I'm just gonna go there. It's like 45 minutes away. And so I just get in my car, and at this point, the rain has finally stopped. And so I drive for 45 minutes. I get to this Hampton Inn, and I've never been so happy to see a Hampton Inn in my life. It was in the middle of the city. Like, it was more expensive because of its location, but it was also just super nice. Like, Hampton Inns are not normally that nice. Like the lobby just felt more like grand. It felt more upscale. Yes, it was obviously more expensive because of that too. But I was just like, I'm just so happy to be here, and I just needed to like decompress from all of that like stress of driving. So I had never been so happy to see a Hampton Inn in my life. And one thing I kind of forgot to mention is that when I was driving through the rain and that, on my way to Seattle, it was so funny, not funny, but so funny because I got a warning on my car that like basically my remote control battery is dead. Like it wasn't even like the warning. It's like it's dead. You need to replace it. And I was like, really? Like I'm driving through the rain. Like the standing water on the roads. There's like flood warnings, and these semis are like going over the speed limit, getting water all over my car, and like I had to get this fucking warning right now. Like it was so annoying to me. And it's funny because when I got to the Hampton Inn, I was like, okay, let me see if I have the spare remote in my car, which I had to go through so many different bags, and I finally found it. Um, and the spare remote, I'm like, if the spare remote is in here, shouldn't they be? Because I'm in my car the whole time. I'm like, shouldn't it not be giving me that warning? So I'm like, because it could sense the spare remote too. So I'm like, are they both dead? So it just was like, I was like, this is crazy. Like, I could have gotten stranded like without a remote control that worked, right? But what was funny is that I Googled the Mini Cooper dealership. It was 8 minutes from my hotel. So it felt very divine. Um, and the next morning, I ended up going to the Mini Cooper dealership. Like both of the remotes were low, that they were about to stop working. So I just don't know if I had got stranded outside of Seattle, like if those remotes, like the battery would have made it. I feel like maybe they wouldn't have, and I really would have been in a pickle. Like, I guess you can go to just like another type of car place that's not a dealership and get them replaced. You probably can. I would have had to find some type of solution or figure out how to get my car to go without a remote. But it was just it was very divine. I feel like very divine for me to be like, hey, like you need to get to going, you need to get to Seattle. And then I got to this hotel that was right by the Mini Cooper dealership, so for that I was very, very grateful. Also, when I was driving into Seattle that night, I was just super happy and excited to be there. Like, I liked the energy of the city, and I was excited to get the chance to move there and to like build a life there and to meet people there, right? To find community and connections there. Um and explore the city. Like it's a cool city. Like it's got a lot of really cool things about it. And it's been a long time since I felt that way. Because when I moved to Los Angeles this summer, I just felt this sense of like dread and fear, and I was upset to be there as I was driving in, and like it was a really rough time for me there. Like over those 5 months I lived there, I went through a lot of shit. And so I just felt so happy to be in Seattle. And the last time I felt that way was when I was like, I think it was 24, about to turn 25, and I moved to Chicago, and I had an amazing experience in that city. A lot of hard stuff happened to me there too. Like I was a victim of crime there, and I had a lot of other work issues and friend issues and things like that. But I overall, like, I had some cool experiences like being in that city. Um, when I moved to Austin, right? Because I left Chicago, I went to Austin. And then that's when I started traveling to become nomadic after Austin, and then lived in LA for 5 months. But Austin was kind of the same thing, where I was kind of dreading moving there and I wasn't excited. And part of that's because I went to UT Austin for both my bachelor's and my master's degree. So it's like I kind of lived Austin and done all the stuff. And I'd done it as a college student. So I'd had a lot of fun there. So there was nothing like fun to explore there to me. But my time in Austin ended up being a lot of like hard lessons, right? And it was fun, and I made some great friends there. Definitely learned a lot at work, like, and I had some really good experiences with the people and the stuff that I met, and the stuff I got into, but I haven't felt like this level of excitement to be in a new city, like, literally, like 12 years ago. So it was a really, really good sign. Okay, so we're gonna get into the Wicked movie next, which I saw kind of my first full day, I think, in Seattle. But before we do, I just want to let you guys know that I do have some freebies linked below. So if you're interested in opening up your third eye, I have a free third eye activation meditation below that can help you become psychic or just work on your inner knowing, any of your clear senses. If you're wanting to open your third eye more, definitely check out that meditation below. Also, for my fellow sticker lovers out there, I love stickers and always have. I actually made some free sticker printables for all the different types of star seeds out there. So if you're a star seed and you love stickers, you'll definitely want to check that out below. I also have my link for all the different sessions that I have. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, you want to learn more about your galactic history, like where you came from, what planet you were on, were you a Arcturian, were you an Antares, Mantis being, were you a Pleiadian prior to coming here? If you want to go through that soul history, and then understand like why the heck did I even want to come to Earth in the first place? Like, what am I meant to do here? Like, what is my life purpose? We can go into that too. So I have my soul origin and life purpose reading linked below, and then all of my other sessions as well. So please check those out. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Wicked movie. So this was the one that came out in 2025. So this was Wicked 2. So Wicked 1 had come out in 2024, and I had gotten a very strong message from my spirit team to not see this movie in theaters. And so during that time, I was going through a really big third eye activation and upgrade, and I was pretty ungrounded, right? So, sometimes when we're opening up our third eye, we have to learn how to do that from a grounded place. And I was, doing that. So I was a little bit more vulnerable last year, and my guides had been like, do not go see this movie. And then I think I kind of worked through some of the stuff, this past year. And then over the summer, actually felt like, okay, like I can watch this movie now, and felt like my guides were like, yeah, you can watch the movie now. And so I watched Wicked like probably in like July or August, whenever it was streaming on Amazon. I watched the first one. I mean, from a movie perspective, I thought it was a great movie. Just a human perspective, right? I enjoyed it. Thought it was really well done. But I was watching it, and I definitely was like, there's definitely like the Illuminati is like sending codes to like lower our frequencies in this movie, right? And we've all seen stuff about this online. Like, it's been very highly talked about. I mean, you look at like the actors, that are the main actors, the two main actors that are in this movie. They look very different after filming the film. They look like their life force energy has been drained, right? And there are scenes in that movie like where like Alphaba and Glinda are like dancing, where I'm like, that feels ritualistic to me. Like, I could feel stuff coming at me at that point. When they're on the train and they're sending out like waving and sending hand symbols, like that felt like they're sending codes, right? And so I think, if you're ungrounded, or you're kind of maybe in a lower vibrational or frequency, like getting those codes could really hurt you. From a mental health standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, from an addiction standpoint, it can make you in a lower vibration where you can't overcome your insecurities, your anger, your fear, and you turn more towards unhealthy behaviors, whether that's actual addiction or, just something else, self-hatred or self-harm, or just not believing in yourself and staying in your job you hate, right? That's a much more mild type of example. But that's what I had seen in the first one. And so I felt like, okay, like I'm grounded enough, like I'm gonna go see the second one. I want to see it. Again, it was a great movie. Like, these movies are like, just from the human perspective, going to see a movie, they're great. Like, the cinematography is beautiful. Like, I enjoyed the acting, the music, like the storyline was good. And I'd seen the play before, so I kind of knew the storyline, right? But I loved how they did it on screen, and so I want to talk about, it's weird because we know this movie is being used as a tool by the Illuminati to basically lower our frequency, right? And they do this a lot. This is not the only movie. This is entertainment, right? In general and large scale. And it's weird because in this movie they're basically spelling out like their tactic and what they've been doing this whole time that they've had control of the entertainment industry on Earth, and probably before that too. I mean, definitely before that, but it just, I think it was a little bit easier when we knew less, when humans knew less, right? They had more control. We had less technology. We kind of could do what we could do, right, back in the day. But when they show the wizard, right, and we all know the wizard is like not really a wizard. He's this guy who can like pull the smokes and, mirrors behind the screen. He's basically playing a character to us, right? And he's very different behind the screen, or behind the curtain, should I say, because he's behind those curtains, right? And this is exactly what a lot of these celebrities in Hollywood are doing, right? This is what they do. They play a character to the masses, and then they're someone very different behind the screen, right? And they totally changed the storyline, right? When like Glenda goes up, and there are some spoilers in here, if you haven't watched it yet for the Wicked 2 movie. So if you don't want to hear those, skip this part of it. But, she goes up and I don't remember exactly what she said. She's on her broom and she makes like a smoke screen thing in the sky. And it's like the wizard is evil or the wizard lies. I think it's the wizard lies. And then the older sorcerer woman changed it to say Oz should die, right? So it's like she's trying to tell the truth, and then the people who are kind of in control twist the truth and create this fake reality that there's this wizard and he's good and she's evil, right? Like that's exactly what is happening on our planet and has been happening for a long time. And I think one of the things that I think is really cool about the Glinda character is they show how and why people end up joining the Illuminati, right? Because there's this part of her, this like inner child part of her that wants to be seen as special and magical and wants that attention, right? And wants to be this thing that she's not, because she's not magical and she doesn't know how to cast spells and use magic, and it is an illusion, right? Like the bubble contraption they have her writing on, like that is an illusion, right? But she goes along with it. She goes along with it to the point that she becomes their puppet. And whenever Alphaba's sister is passes away because the house falls on her, which is from the original Wizard of Oz movie, which is where the original movie starts out, you know, she goes along, it's just an accident, right? You know, she kind of becomes that public figure who pushes these false narratives. And it kind of shows like that's why a lot of these, you know, celebrities have joined the Illuminati, right? It shows that up close and personal. And it's crazy because the wizard tries to get Alphaba to basically join them, right? Like that whole scene where he's trying to get her to like become part of them and join them and will clear your reputation. Like that's what they do. Like the Illuminati approaches people who have talent and wants them to join and be a part of it, you know? And so it's literally the exact same tactic. And he was talking about his pupils at one point, which and had these like little pupil machine things. I'm like, that's weird because that's super reptilian, having those pupil eyes. Like you always see videos of people's eyes, like their pupils changing to that slant that's common with reptiles. Like it's literally the exact same thing he's showing in the movie, is that talking about his pupils. And then just thing is that they show that the older sorceress woman is literally controlling the weather. Like they're literally admitting to it that that is what they do, right? And we now, you know, that's more mainstream, more accepted, right? I don't think that people accept it's the Illuminati or the reptilians doing it, but, you know, it's supposed to be some group of people. I think, you know, kind of Trump makes it out to be like it's the liberals who are doing it, but, you know, it's really the people behind, you know, both sides of the spectrum, right? Because we have Illuminati everywhere, Hollywood, different political parties, right, who are doing this. But it's just insane to me how much of the truth they're putting in this movie, and we're just supposed to believe it's pretend. And for a long time, we would have thought it was pretend. I mean, 10 years ago, I would have been like, it's just a movie. That stuff's not real. Like, anyone who thinks that is mentally ill. You know, for a long time, I would have thought that. But it's like the truth is hidden in plain sight. And I also recently saw Zootopia a couple days ago, and that was just like that whole plot line blew my mind, that there's conspiracy theories about reptiles living on the outskirts of Zootopia, or this island, the marsh area related to Zootopia. Again, lots of spoilers, so if you want to see Zootopia 2, please don't listen past this point and come back and listen once you have watched the movie. But it was insane to me that they literally have this like beaver who's like a YouTube conspiracy theorist, right? Someone who's probably would be like me, talking about that there's really reptiles really exist. I'm like, this is like literally what's happening in our world, right? And it's funny because this theme of like the cats versus the reptiles, like, is literally depicting what happened with like the Milky Way's galaxy's first humans, the Lyrans, and they were this Lyran versus reptilian war, and the Lyrans were destroyed by the reptilians. So it's literally showing this, like, why did they have to put a cat versus like a reptile? Like, it is insane to me, right? And in Zootopia 2, the cats are actually like the bad guys. They're like corrupt and evil, and they're saying they created the weather walls and they control the city, and they're like the rich family that kind of is like behind everything, and they're colluding with like the local government, and then the reptiles are actually the good guys. So that was a little bit weird. I was like, okay, well, we'll just go along, you know, with it. But there was a line in there, and I'm probably going to make a video that I'm going to put on social media, that it says the first ever weather wall was invented by a snake, right? And the weather walls in Zootopia, they control the weather because Zootopia is a city that all different types of animals can live in. And so, like, they have like a cold, like, area of the city for like the polar bears and the penguins to live in. And then they have like a tropical part of the city for like the giraffes and the lions and the tigers to like live in, right? So it's like it's the city, the weather is controlled in each parts of the city. And they literally say, they're like, the first ever weather wall was invented by a snake. It's like, okay, well, you're just outing that, like, hey, like, the weather walls or the weather controlling machines are used by the reptilians, right? So it's just insane to me, like, how much of this they're putting out there. And the reason that they're doing this is because they have to. They have to tell us what's happening, right? Universal law dictates that they can't just totally, not tell us the truth. They just create this kind of mind trick, right? And that's what the reptilians do. They're great with like psychology and mind tricks to make us think that what is real is an illusion and what is an illusion is real, right? Like our reality around us is an illusion. And we're supposed to believe that these things they tell us about spirituality, about our life, that these things are true, right? And that we're supposed to live in this matrix, right? And we only have one life, and all these different things, like they tell us these things, the society they create for us, this illusion of our reality, right? And then we break out of it, right? Because we like to call it the matrix, and we realize that what they were telling us is made up and making fun of, and it's made fun of, and it said, hey, like, people are crazy who think this, like that's the actual truth, and the reality is the illusion. And it's very trippy, right? And I've gone on this experience myself the past 3 years, and it's a journey, and it takes time to break yourself out of the matrix. But the way they get around this is because they put this in movies and tell us they're not real. They're telling us the truth. It's in plain sight, right? But they're tricking us, right? They're manipulating us by saying movies are not real, right? That's how they're able to control the planet and how they have for so long. But they're losing their grasp, they're losing their control, and more people are awakening, and we're finding these things out. We're finding these things out, and even, the stuff that's going on, with like these different like movie mogul guys in Hollywood, right? I don't want to say their names because I don't know if it'll get flagged or anything like that. But they are, right? Like what they've happened is like now public knowledge. What they've been doing, right, is now public knowledge. And so we are finding out these things, and eventually there will be full disclosure about what's been happening on the planet, most likely in our lifetimes. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit on my thoughts on Seattle so far. Like I said, I love the city. I think it's easier to get around than Los Angeles. The parking is cheaper. It's not cheap, but it is cheaper than Los Angeles. The gas is not cheap, but it is cheaper than Los Angeles, I think. Almost the same price. So I really like the city, and I'm just super excited to explore. But I will say that the one thing that has kind of bummed me out about Seattle so far is that people are just not that friendly here. Like, there is no small talk. People do not want to small talk with you if you're ordering a coffee from them or you're checking out the grocery store. Like, they don't want to talk to you, right? And it was weird because in Los Angeles, it was very much so like people were super friendly. Like in Texas, like that's expected in Texas. It's known, that's the culture, right? But in Los Angeles, like I didn't know what to expect. And I just loved how friendly and nice everyone was. Like it just was always such a nice thing, especially when you are newer to a city and you don't know anyone, right? And so I think that's kind of been a little bit of a disappointment for me with Seattle. I think people are cliquey here. That's what, based off like what I've watched online of like videos of people who've lived in Seattle, like it seems like they're cliquey. And then I notice like a lot of times if I'm somewhere and I'm ordering something, like people will just be like having conversation with the other employees. Like if you're at a coffee shop, they're having this conversation and it's like you, the customer, like interrupting their conversation. Like it just seems like it's very like cliquey, and we only talk to people we're like comfortable with. Like I don't even know if like any of these baristas could hold a conversation with me, And that's like, to me, it's like, that's kind of a job that like you normally are more chatty in, right? Not everywhere, but yeah. So it's been, that part of it has been a bit disappointing, but I think Seattle has that reputation. I would love to be able to just meet people, make friends immediately, but I've kind of set my expectation that like this may not be a super fast place to just, meet people, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I manifest and I'm the exception for that, but I also think that, the culture here is just maybe different than I'm used to. So we'll see. I am excited to be here, and I do think I'll break through eventually, and meet some people who are maybe, friendly and open, but a little bit higher vibrational as well. So, with that, I just want to say again, thank you so much for listening. This podcast has very much been a practice session for me. I've never made a podcast before, and I like literally have not known what I'm doing really. So I'm going to keep practicing on my next podcast. I would love to see you there. I'd love for you to join me there. I'd also love to meet you in person. So if you would like to work with me one-on-one, I have my sessions linked below. I also have a lot of like energy healing sessions too that I don't mention as much as my soul origin and life purpose session, but if you have like different things you want to work on the energetic level, I do have a past life clearing session. If you have like kind of a something in your life you're trying to work through, maybe you've done everything in therapy and you kind of just need to clean up the energetic side of it. That's typically when I jump in, when you've done that work with your therapist or just however you meditate, internal reflection, however you work through stuff. So I do have that session. I also have like actual energy healing sessions and activations, like a third eye activation, financial abundance attunement. I have all that kind of stuff linked below. So I would love to meet you guys in person. So please peruse and check out my sessions linked below. All right, so that's it. That is the completion of the From Los Angeles to Seattle podcast, and I will see you guys in 2026.